Hello and welcome to North Star Stamper. I'm Sue Kramer. Thank you for joining me today and watching my videos. Always. If you're watching on replay, let me know that. Let me know when you find me live. I'm looking for myself on my tablet. There we go. All right. I think we're good to go. Okay, thank you for joining me. I'm Sue Kramer. I'm an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator in Minnesota. Boy, I sound a little congested today, and I don't know if you watched my video from last week. I was not feeling well, and I don't know if you could tell. Nobody mentioned it, but I was not feeling well, and it turns out I had COVID. I didn't find out till Wednesday. Thank goodness I had stayed home. But I'm on the mend. Like I said, I sound funny today. I guess I haven't done much talking. But today we are talking about a watercolor technique. Stampin' Up! Shared that July was a watercolor month. July just went by in a blur at our house, so I'm a little behind with death in the family in July and COVID last week, so I've got catching up to do. So today we're doing a watercolor technique. They call it the Emboss Resist, and I couldn't find... But I'm pretty sure I shared the video from Stampin' Up! With you here in Facebook. But Facebook was being funny, and that's why I was a couple seconds late. But I think I shared it. If I didn't, I will go back and share what Stampin' Up! Shared with us, or with everybody, I think. Anyway, so one sample that you will find, hopefully you know where to find me. Reach out to me through my website is probably the easiest way to get in touch with me, or email me. So, all right, thank you for joining me. Let's get busy. I've got lots to share. So this sample here, this is the July through December mini catalog, page 50. These pumpkins here are a kind of an emboss resist technique. So I have a sample here. I am going to die cut them and make a card similar. So I embossed, this is watercolor paper. I embossed in gold, and then I don't know if I used re-inker or ink from my pads. Probably used ink from the pads on a block to get multiple colors here. So I think this is a combination of the two, and I didn't make a note of the colors I used. But this was the first thing that got me going with embossing and watercoloring. So again, that's page 50 if you want to see that sample. Let me toss that out of the way. So we are doing an embossed resist technique, and I'll show you my samples first, and then I'm going to show you my favorite first. So I have 3 different samples here. This one is watercolor paper. It is my favorite to use because you can add a lot of water because it is so thick, obviously intended for water, and you can just do more with it. So that one is on watercolor paper. So the resist technique is you emboss, in this case I used white embossing powder first, and then you add your watercolor. And then where the embossing is, it resists the water that you're adding, the color that you're adding. So, and this is my second one. This is the shimmery white cardstock. Sorry, I don't have page numbers. It'd be easy enough to find. So I have a few ideas for you here. So it does work on shimmery white, and I use basic white as well. Usually it warps a lot, the basic white does, but use what you have and try it. And then if you don't like your results, try a different paper or purchase another paper. So if I forget, this stamp is this leaf from the Happiness Abounds. And so I stamped it in garden green, but I wanted it filled in. It wasn't green enough. And if I have time, I will show you how I did this. So I turned my stamp over. It's not intended to be a reversible, and it has to be sticky. It isn't sticking in my block right now. And then I stamped it in my garden green again and stamped off a couple times to get it to fill in. It's not perfect, but I kind of like the look of that. So that's kind of a bonus technique for you today. All right, let's get busy. I will try to leave these here. Let's see, if I go this way, make sure you can see what we're doing. All right, so the butterflies come from the Butterfly Brilliance, And it does come as one stamp, but if you remember, this was on sale a while ago, and I bought myself a second stamp, and I cut it apart, so I have individual butterflies now. So with my demonstrator discount, and it was on sale, it was very inexpensive for me to purchase. All right, let me grab a piece of paper. We are going to make a mess. So, you know what? I don't think I want these on here. Let me know if you want to see those again. Okay, so does everybody know how to emboss? I'm just assuming you do know. I will show you one though. This is shimmer white. We'll just do one real quick. I do have our new, again, I don't have names. This is an embossing kit that comes with an embossing buddy. So there's powder, anti-static powder in here. I'm using my old one still. These tweezers are fabulous. They're really heavy. I wish you could feel them. And the instructions that came with the kit say that these tips are ceramic, and be careful because they get hot when you hold them to hold something to emboss. Your heat tool will heat them up, and it is true. They were hot. I didn't burn myself, but they did get hot, so beware of that. And then it comes with this very nice brush, which I can show you on one of these samples. I think, I don't see it right now, but I accidentally dropped the big stamp before I cleaned it. And so and then after I added powder, I used the brush to take off any powder that I didn't want. So that was very handy. We're going to keep those handy. I don't use the tray because I keep my embossing powders in large plastic containers, so I don't need to put this back into the container. So Versamark is the ink we're going to use. Let me make sure I don't have any questions here. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me. It says Tony's watching from upstairs. Hi, Tony. Or if he might just be checking in. Okay, to see if I was live. All right, so that was those. And that's embossing. You need a sticky ink. Versamark, they call it a watermark stamp pad. It is, what's the word I want? Not craft. We used to call it craft ink. I don't know what other people call it. So your embossing bunny, the paper, okay, slow down. The paper is going to have residual ink residual from my fingers, whatever. So I'm going to clean this off. You can pounce it. You can see there actually is powder in there. And it will just make a better image when you do emboss. All right, so that's the embossing buddy. I'm going to take my Versamark ink. And let's do it this way. Hopefully you can see. Ink, 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 ink. And push right, where am I? And it's sticky. See how sticky it was? Let's just do these. This card will be different than the others. And with this paper, I can see where I have stamped. And I don't know if you can see that. Maybe a little. I can see it though, which is good because then I know where I want my other ones. When I did this with the, hold on, let me get this stamped. Sorry, with the watercolor paper, I could not see where I stamped, so I had to pay close attention to where I stamped my previous butterflies so I would know where I wanted to go. So that was Versamark ink. I'm going to set that on my chamois to clean it off when we're done. And I wish you could see. Oh, there. You could see it just a little bit. So you can see where that stamped image is. I'm going to take my white embossing powder and add it there. I know a lot of people get hooked on stamping because of embossing. A lot of people. I did see it demonstrated before I even bought my first stamp. I saw it demonstrated at a craft show. So I'm gonna, actually here, this is perfect. You can see, I don't know, you probably can't see. It's white powder on white. Let me get real close. Right there, can you see? There's some excess powder, probably from where I had held the paper. So I just use my brush and brush it back into my container. Now I'm going to use my reverse tweezers. Like I said, they're heavy, and that is going to hold it in place. My heat tool is from before Stampin' Up! Sold our own heat tools. I bought it from Stampin' Up!, but it doesn't say Stampin' Up! On it because we used to sell other people's products. So I'm going to hold that in place, and it's going to be noisy, and this will be the only one I show. I do have other samples on other paper to use for our demonstration, but sorry, it's going to be noisy. Let me heat this up for a minute. So that's pretty hot, and I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. So it's going to melt the powder. I know it's like watching paint dry, isn't it? But it's kind of fun. It's more impressive if you use silver powder on a dark cardstock or something. Alright. There, and that is embossed. Can you see that better now? And I wouldn't use this right away. I would let it cool before I did anything with it. But I wanted you to see that in case you've never seen embossing before, and that's called heat embossing. People try to use hair dryers with them. Hair dryers are too powerful and it blows the powder away. I've heard of people using toasters and stoves and all kinds of things, but we offer them at Stampin' Up! And if money really is an issue, use your 40% at Michael's or Hobby Lobby. It's a good investment. It's really fun. Oh, this one's for later. If I have time for a second technique, we will do that. So I have them already done, and they're the same butterflies on different paper. And I'll let you know which ones I'm using. I have shimmer white. It is thicker than our basic white, so that's good. I used regular basic white. Thick basic white may have been a good option. I didn't think of that till this very second. All right, so there's basic white, and then I have, oh, there's an extra one, watercolor paper. Let's start with the basic white. And the colors I used in my samples were, oh, come back here. I used Fresh Freesia, Parakeet Party, and Orchid Oasis. I had thought I would use soft seafoam as well, and on one of my cards, I think I hit it really well. I don't know. The soft seafoam just had too much gray in it, so I stopped using that. But I'm tired of those colors, so we're going to use something different. We are going to use crushed curry, polished pink, and Tahitian tide. So these are going to be the colors I use for my samples here. The watercolor paper we offer, which is what I'm using today, is the Fluid 100. And I'm using this size because it's exactly half of the 5x7 that I got in the package. And so I just went with that. Let's see. And then the other thing we need are water painters. And this is how they come. I did open these and take them out. And I filled them with water in the sink. Okay. Let's see if I can find a good example. All right. Can you see the difference between the edge on my green one, Parakeet Party, and the edge on this one? See how it's kind of fluttered away there? The color. This one I brushed with water before I added my color. This one I did not, and I just used the ink to make that outline. I kind of look like the look of the watercolory feathering. So we're going to do that. I will show you both on this sample, I think, just so you can see the difference. Using the wide tip one is going to be easiest, and I should have made sure these were working. All right, they are. And I'm going to grab some paper towel. And I'm going to grab just a white piece of cardstock. You'll see what I'm going to use that for in a minute. And my block. I'm just using this block because it's large. It's the eye block. I could use something smaller, but this works. Let's start with polished pink. Let me make sure you can see what I'm doing. A couple drops is more than enough. Let's get these out of the way. All right. All right, that's polished pink, and I'm going to use my bigger brush here. Kind of fun having new tools. And get water out. No, we're going to brush this little one first. And I just want to get it kind of wet. I kind of want to stay in the shape of a butterfly. And that is really soaked, so I'm going to pick up some of that water with my paper towel. So I just wanted it wet. All right, now we're going to add some water to our re-inker. Just a drop or two so it's really liquidy. And then we're going to add it. You can see it's kind of sticking on the top of my butterfly. I'm going to turn this around. Being a lefty, I like to kind of go like that. Look at how that's wicking where the water is already. We'll give it a minute. I'm going to keep it in the shape of my butterfly. I'm going to try to hold it up so you can see. And that's just one color. I can tell, I don't know if you can in the video, where, I might take your pick tool, where I have it wet and where it's dry. So it is bleeding out to where it was wet. Let's do another one with the same, but I'm not going to wet it with my wide brush before I put it on, and you'll see the difference. And there's no right or wrong. It's just a different look, a different effect. It depends what stamps you're using, what look you're going for, what you prefer. There's no right or wrong. There's just different ways of doing it. I was talking with Anne, my sister and teammate, earlier today, and she had done one, and then she used a die cut, didn't you, Anne, to cut it out? So in which case, getting it around the edge isn't as important, unless your die has that white edge and you didn't want the white. But here, if I go outside my butterfly, I only get color where my brush goes, because I did not wet this butterfly before I added the color. Let me finish this one off here, and then I'll hold it up. There, see the difference? Hopefully you can see the difference. If not, I want you to try it. And if you don't have the supplies and you really want to see, let me know and I'll send you a sample. I'll send you this sample. Okay, so I have this white piece of paper here because I used ink that I purchased on that, and I don't want to just waste it by putting it in cleaning it with my paper towel. So I am going to fill up just a piece. Okay, so this is almost clean. I'm going to fill up this paper. So now I have very little ink color left on there. When I'm done with the evening, this is going to be full of color, much like this one. My plan is to die cut leaves and flowers and make beautiful cards, and then I'm not wasting my ink. I know it's not a lot, but I figure everything I can save, the better. All right, let's add Tahitian Tide. I'll probably just do one butterfly on each paper so you can see the difference. Like I said, I'm trying to go in the shape of my butterfly. Let me make sure my brush is clean. All right, I'm going to add some water here. Get this out of the way. See, it's pretty wet. And then I'm just going to, oh, watch that. Oh, that's so fun. This is so fun. I get to feel like an artist. Let your products do the work for you. I'm going to brush it around the outside. I probably should go back. While that is, I want to make sure my antenna can be seen. All right. Where's my paper to clean off my Okay, that's pretty clean. I'm going to take this and just smush it on here. And it's pretty clean. I do want to clean it completely though. All right. I probably should take my paper towel and clean these pink butterflies since they're dry. And any ink that is on top of my embossing should come off on my paper towel. Again, if this is too dark, if I didn't like those dark splotches there, I could pick up that ink with my paper towel and it would be lighter. I do like it dark, so I'm going to leave it. But there we go. And I would finish that card. I will show you that real quick with this stamp and with... Got lots of ink pads on the table today. Garden green was my go-to. So I'm going to stamp the outline. I won't do all of it because you get the idea. And then I'm going to take this stamp. This stamp does not come with the fillers, and I really wanted more green around my butterfly, so I'm going to put this on to my block, upside down, and hopefully it'll stick. Yep. So now show you up here. I'm going to stamp off once and then go back. And before I re-ink again, we'll add a second. So there I stamped off. There's my second and there's my third. That way I can use just an outline stamp and have it filled in. All right. So that was basic white. And you can see that paper is a little warped. Let's do that again with shimmer white, if I can find it. There we go. Shimmer white. Again, I like the outline better. So I'm just going to outline all of them. Now we'll just do the little ones. We have not used crushed curry yet, so we are going to make a crushed curry. Gonna re-inker on my block. Water painter with water. I think you've got the drill down now, right? I should look to see if you have questions. How does it look if you paint the thinner ink onto the stamp and then stamp? I will try that in a minute, Kathy. I did something similar and I have something to show you. Let me get these done. I think my crushed curry ink the color's off a little bit. It's usually more yellow and not so gold. So Kathy, with this technique, I am highlighting that where I've embossed, it resists the ink. So that's what this technique is all about. So you're talking about a different technique. Here, which is fine. I love questions. I love showing things. I would go live every day if you would watch me. Maybe not every day. Okay, clean that off. Let me show you finally on, I should not have cleaned that off. I should have used it on my watercolor paper. So this is our Fluid 100 watercolor paper. Let's go back to Tahitian Tide. Again, I like it best when I outline. I don't know if you can see that is puddling on there, and I don't need that much water on there. All right, so some Tahitian Tide. And some water. See, that's, and then we'll add it. Again, on my scrap paper. Oh, that's really going everywhere, isn't it? Let's go that way. Let's go outside the lines a little bit more. Wipe my block off on my paper. clean my brush off on my paper. It'll be fun to show you what I create with that mess. And I did have yellow on my brush still, so it's turning green. Alright, that looks a little dark, so I'm going to mop it up a little bit with my paper towel, and it lightens the color. So that's another thing you can do. I do like the bright colors. They really show it off. Okay, Kathy, you wanted to see, and this is just white, it's not embossed. You wanted to see what would happen if we used, okay, how does it look if you paint the thinner ink onto the stamp and then stamp? All right, let's use this little stamp. I will thin my ink or my re-inker with water, and this is gonna, how thin this is gonna make a big difference. And then I assume you wanted me to brush this on here. Is that what you were thinking, Kathy? Let me know in the comments. And then stamp, you get, there's nothing wrong with it, and I'll show you that I actually did something similar. You lose it depending on how inky it is. The first one wasn't bad. If I just go lightly and it's not too wet, sorry, if I just go lightly and it's not too wet, I'm not sure. Okay, the only time I could see myself doing that is if I wanted to mix polished pink and fresh Freesia to get a unique color. And I remember doing this with our hydrangea stamp when it first came out. Although I didn't stamp on the, I don't think I colored the stamp. Let's do something different here. I'm going to color polished pink in the middle. So I used Balmy Blue and Highland Heather on my block to color in a hydrangea to get a nice purpley blue combination on it. So I put pink in the middle, and I'll put this blended color on the outside and then stamp. So unless you're going to do two colors like you did here, and if you like the look of this, that's fine. If you're going to do something else, I don't know if I'd leave that stamp like that. Let me clean off this, and I'll show you what I did. Hold on. How are we doing on time? Okay. This one here, I use my Stamparatus on this though, and it's not embossed. This is watercolor paper. So I did what I did was I had this on my Stamparatus plate, and then I inked it up, and then I spritzed it with water. So it's kind of the same idea. And then I stamped. You can really tell that that one was really wet. And then I let it dry. I may have used my heat tool to set it because I was being impatient. And then I stamped right over the top. That's why I used the Stamparatus. In this case, I used basic gray to stamp over the top to add back in the details. So it'd be really hard to line them up though, because I don't know. But that's another idea. So that's what that is. So hopefully that gives you some ideas on how I created these. It was fun to use multiple colors there. Again, Fresh Freesia and Orchid Oasis. Did I tell you that? And then Parakeet Party was my third color this afternoon. And the leaves were garden green. Layered it onto black cardstock just to offset the bright colors. I do have one more thing to show you. All right. Clean off my block. Don't want to waste all that ink with that beautiful color. Let's see. All right. I have a sheet here, and this is the last one I'm going to show you. I found a video provided by Stampin' Up! From 6 years ago. Almost 6 years ago. It was September 2016. So obviously these techniques are nothing new, but they're really fun to bring back again when you have new products, new stamps. It's always fun to play with. Where did my sheet go? So this one, let's see, she called it the watercolor lift technique. And you remember? Different colors, obviously, but it's watercolor paper. And I used my wide brush, and I got wet ink from, and I made just lines. Again, that's Orchid, Oasis, Fresh Freesia, and Parakeet Party. So that kind of goes with that one. This one was my Crushed Curry, Tahitian Tide, and Polished Pink. Let me clean up a little bit here, and I will show you how I did this. Again, watercolor paper, I think, is key on this one, because we are going to emboss with, okay, everything is a mess. There's that. My embossing buddy. I've touched this a lot, so I'm just gonna, actually, I want to do the whole thing. Thank you for staying with me. I know I'm running a little longer than usual, but I had so much to share. And I think I will look through comments. All right, real quick. Hello, hello, hello. Okay, I think we're good. I think I answered questions, and thank you for the comments. I appreciate them. All right, Versamark ink. Again, this is watercolor paper, and I just did a watercolor wash, and I chose to make it very, very bright. Okay, I cannot, after, excuse me, when I stamp this, I'm not going to be able to see it on my watercolor paper. So I'm not even going to try to show it to you. So I have to remember where I stamped. There's that one. I can barely see it, maybe. One there. One there. One here. And I'm hoping these aren't going to overlap. I think we're good. All right. Get rid of these. And my ink. Again, this is, oh wait, this is white. And that white is what I used earlier. This time I want clear, because the idea is that I want to see what I have covered up. Does that make sense? Let me make sure this is clear. Uh-oh, this is white. I did that backwards. Maybe that's, I don't know. Ay, 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 ay. Containers are the same. I think I need to mark them, don't I? So that was interesting. I did those. Where's... Anyway, I don't know if I use that. So for that technique, I would use white. Sorry if I'm confusing you. This time I do want clear. I guess I haven't used that panel I embossed earlier, did I? I just showed you how to emboss. I'm holding it where there is no stamping. All right. I need to get my heat tool out again. Oh, this is the one. Yeah, I used clear. I meant to use white, but... So the ones I've shown you so far, this was done in white, and you can actually see the white. So I'm going to heat this up. I'm hoping you can see. I don't know if you can. I'll let that cool for a minute. Now this time, I need a new paper towel. Under the clear embossing powder, it's going to stay bright. You can kind of tell, especially on the Orchid Oasis, the purple here, you can see that I've removed the ink where there is no embossing. So whether you color first and then emboss, or you emboss and then color, make a big difference on your final product. So kind of fun to take that same idea of embossing and watercoloring and reversing the order to get two different, completely different looks. Okay, I think this is cool enough. We're going to start with the pinks. I like the watercolor paper because I don't know if you can see, it is really pooling on there. And I'm going to pick up the pink with my paper towel. Look at that. We're going to come down to the pink because I probably do have pink on my brush. I like how these have bled together, and I've got some orange and purple on here too, even though I only used, oh sorry, I hope I'm in screen. Oh, this is so fun. Thank you for staying with me. I thought this was worth showing you and keeping you longer than my normal half an hour. All right, so there's the pink. Let's do the yellow next. I'm just adding lots of water to my watercolor paper over top of where I have embossed. I couldn't even see that embossed section there. I'm going to let it soak in for just a second. And then mop it up with a paper towel. Kind of a messy technique, but that's okay. It's just paper towel. And mop it up. Let's clean this off. I'm going to see if I can leave that blue. Lots of water. I don't think I have much embossed down there. And then right through there, let it sit for a minute, get into my blue, and then we'll mop it up. So here I'm lifting the ink from where it's not embossed. Can you see that? I hope you can. And of course I will put that on a card base, maybe a navy blue, basic gray, something like that. So those are my two techniques for you today. So this was considered Emboss Resist, and I can't remember what she called this one in that video I watched earlier, but it's basically the reverse. You emboss, you color, emboss, and then remove the color. And this one you emboss and then color over the top. Thank you for joining me. Happy stamping. Let me look through comments and see what you have to say. Thank you for joining me. I appreciate it. Kathy liked the technique I used to color my leaves. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you for joining me. All right, I think we're good. Thank you. Happy stamping. Let me know if I can help you with anything. And if you want to purchase any Stampin' Up supplies, reinkers, water painters, stamps, we have a lot to offer. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now.